Most people don't realize that having $0 in your bank account actually costs you thousands of dollars a year. Let me tell you about two people, person A and person B. They drive similar cars, live in identical apartments, and buy the exact same groceries, but person B pays substantially more money for every single one of those things. Why? Person A has $5,000 sitting in a savings account, and person B is living paycheck to paycheck. If you're person B, I need you to hear this right now. This has nothing to do with you being bad with money. You are trapped in a mechanical, invisible framework that actively penalizes you for not having cash up front. Economists actually have a name for this. It's called the poverty premium. It is a hidden tax on financial instability that makes literally everything in your life more expensive. Let's run the brutal math on exactly how this drains your account dollar by dollar. The invisible enemy and the brutal math. Let's start the tally. First, the grocery store. When you don't have a financial cushion, you can't buy in bulk when items go on sale. Because you don't have the cash for that larger upfront purchase, you're forced to buy single items week after week, paying a significantly higher price per unit. Next, your insurance, car, renters, home. When you pay your premiums annually, insurance companies typically offer a 5 to 15% discount. But if you don't have the cash to pay up front, you have to choose the monthly plan. You are effectively paying a penalty fee simply for not having cash available. Then there's your car. Without cash reserves, you can't maintain your vehicle proactively. You can't afford to replace the tires before they're completely bald, or fix a small issue before it becomes catastrophic. So those minor problems become emergency repairs at emergency prices. And we haven't even talked about your job. If you can't afford a temporary cash flow disruption, you can't afford to contribute enough to get your full employer 401k match or use flexible spending accounts. That is guaranteed money sitting there unclaimed because you don't have the upfront liquidity to grab it. Add these premiums together and the annual cost of being broke easily reaches thousands of dollars. The less money you have, the more you pay for the exact same goods and services. Pattern interrupt. The psychology of scarcity. Wait, let's pause. If being broke is so incredibly expensive, why don't people just plan ahead and save the money to avoid these traps? This is where standard financial advice usually shames you, but that advice completely ignores the biology of what happens to your brain when you run out of money. Harvard economist Senthil Mullainathan and Princeton psychologist Eldar Shafir explored this in their landmark book, Scarcity: Why Having Too Little Means So Much. And what they found was deeply disturbing. Financial stress doesn't just make you worried, it literally, measurably reduces your cognitive capacity. When your brain is completely consumed with financial anxiety, when you're constantly calculating if you can afford groceries, or juggling which bill to pay this Friday, you literally have less mental bandwidth available for everything else. The researchers called this psychological phenomenon tunneling. Your focus violently narrows to the immediate problem directly in front of you. Survival, paying the rent, keeping the lights on, everything outside of that tunnel just gets ignored. The promotion you should be positioning yourself for, the investment you should be making, the bulk buy discount that would save you money next month. All of it fades into background noise because your brain is burning all its energy just trying to survive the current month. It makes complex decisions harder, and it makes long-term planning feel physically impossible. You default to short-term thinking. This is not weakness or a lack of willpower. It is a documented biological effect of financial pressure on your cognitive function. Re-engagement and the system. Hack. Okay. Pattern interrupt. How do we break the loop? If the system is rigged to charge you a poverty premium and your brain is tunneling so hard you can't plan your way out, what is the actual mathematical exit strategy? Most people will tell you to build a standard emergency fund. You know the script. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses, but when you have $0 in the bank, saving $15,000 to $30,000 feels completely impossible, so you don't even try. We need a complete reframe. Let's forget the massive emergency fund for a second. Let's talk about the first $1,000 to $2,000 you managed to save. This first $2,000 is not an emergency fund. I want you to rename it in your head right now. It is your premium eliminator. Its entire job is to stop the daily bleeding. When you build just $1,000 to $2,000 in immediately accessible cash, you accomplish something massive. You stop the cycle of credit card emergencies, overdraft fees, and payday loans. You buy the ability to pay your insurance annually. You buy the ability to fix the car before the engine explodes. You buy the ability to shop around for value instead of buying purely based on urgency. Cash isn't just a safety net for bad things. It is absolute leverage. Cash reserves can significantly reduce the poverty premium by helping you avoid fees, interest, and forced bad timing. And here's the magic trick. Once that initial bleeding stops, your cognitive bandwidth returns. You are no longer tunneling. You finally have the mental space for strategic thinking and creative problem solving. You can finally look up from the immediate crisis and start building that real 3 to 6 month buffer. And once you hit that larger buffer, the psychology completely shifts. You are no longer operating from scarcity. You are making decisions from a position of absolute strength. Think about the negotiating power this gives you. If you have no cash, you stay in a toxic job because you can't afford the gap between paychecks. You accept a terrible salary because the idea of being unemployed terrifies you more than being underpaid. But when you have a cushion, you can afford to be patient. You can push back on unreasonable demands, ask for the raise you deserve, or simply walk away without panic. The closing and the shift. Look, the cost of not having cash is rarely just one big, dramatic, bankrupting event. More often, it's an accumulation of compromises. It's putting the emergency on a credit card and paying 22% interest for years. It's accepting the first job offer instead of negotiating because you desperately need the certainty. Each of these compromises feels small in isolation, but together they create a trajectory. 5 years later, you look up and you are behind where you should be in income, in health, and in life satisfaction. And you can trace the entire gap back to countless moments where the fear of financial instability drove your decisions. Cash reserves break this pattern. Start by calculating your actual monthly expenses. Automate a small transfer to a high-yield savings account every single time you get paid. The amount matters less than the consistency. Build the premium eliminator. Stop the bleeding. At some point in this process, and it's different for everyone, you will wake up and realize your entire relationship with money has fundamentally changed. You'll stop operating from scarcity, and you'll start operating from choice. And that shift is worth infinitely more than any emergency fund. Before you go, I want to hear from you. We've all paid the hidden tax at some point. What is one specific poverty premium cost that you've noticed in your own life? Tell me in the comments below so we can all see just how common this trap really is. And if this video changed how you think about your bank account, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.